Do you think the casting for Chris Pine's character in this movie, the director and writers and stuff just put Chris? Like, they're like, well, is it going to be either Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pines, or Chris Evans? One of these Chris's. We'll just fit one of them in there. I feel like all of them could have played this role. Well, how's it going? I am Lazy Dude. Welcome to another Lazy Dude review. And today we're reviewing Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. And I gotta say, the thing that... I have no history with Dungeons & Dragons. I've never played the game. I've never really... I've only recently got into watching a few videos now, but only like small clips and no long campaigns or anything like that. I don't have enough interest to spend hours watching other people play or even playing myself. I don't really have the interest. But I will say there has been a little bit of interest in me, and so I was... But the thing that really drove me to this movie, to seeing it, was the rating. It was a very high rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and I was just like, oh, that's very high. And for a comedy, I haven't seen a comedy in a long time that I thoroughly enjoyed. And so I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity to have a great time at the movie theaters and in a fantasy world. I actually really enjoy fantasy, and I've been kind of craving it a little bit. I recently replayed Skyrim all over again. I always play up till I get a new character all the way up to level 50, and then I'm done, and I did that. So I've been really wanting to dive into fantasy, and this movie, let's just get into it. It does have a lot of great characters and atmosphere. The way the magic of the world works and the creativity with it, I actually am really enjoying. The characters, they're a lot of fun, and there is just a little bit with it that is holding this film back where you're just like, okay, maybe that Rotten Tomatoes rating is not as, the 90% seems a lot larger than I think most people are trying to give it. They're not saying that this movie is a 9 out of 10. They're just saying that this is an enjoyable movie. But let's just get into it. Our main characters are played by Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez. They play two thieves who are just breaking out of prison to try to get his daughter back from a fellow colleague, but it turns into a wild adventure where they have their colleague has lied to their daughter, and their daughter doesn't really want his daughter, I should say, and his daughter doesn't really want to go with him, and so they plan to rob him and get his daughter back. And so they go on this epic quest, meeting a bunch of different characters along the way. And so let's just start with the main character. We got Chris Pratt. He plays this bard who is, I'm not going to remember any of the actual titles in this, sorry to say, but he plays this bard who was formerly this guardian of this order, but then when his wife died, he left it, became a thief and a bard, and so, and then he got caught, and so now he's trying to get his daughter back. And I will say that Chris Pine in this movie does actually a really good job with this character. Normally when you have these sort of leader characters that are also a little bit of a goofball, I don't really buy, why would anybody follow that? I had a little bit of that feeling in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, where it's like, well, Star-Lord is a little bit of an idiot. Why is anybody following him? But, they justify it good enough in that franchise. But this movie, I actually think they really do a good job with it. How they show that he's a little bit thick-headed, he has a little bit of Badoy moments, but he also has really good moments. And I kind of see why everyone would gradually lead to him. Chris Pine hits the character with the right amount of fun personality, but also a good little bit of wit in him that makes him a good main character to follow. His motivation, however, it's really, really simple. I feel like nowadays people are just like, oh, my character needs motivation. He has a daughter. And that somehow is all the motivation he needs. Not saying that that isn't a good character motivation, but I feel like it's just like, I have a daughter. And that's it. They don't really go into that or develop her character at all in this film. In fact, I feel like her acting, I'm sorry to say, I don't mean to riff on kids, but it's pretty bad throughout this movie. But I feel like her character just wasn't given a whole lot to do. And so that leaves his character, very by the book. Everything with him is there's not any moment that leaves me very surprised or anything with his character. or anything like that. Michelle Rodriguez is in this film, and I gotta say, I love Michelle Rodriguez. Ever since I saw her in SWAT, I've loved her in anything, even in movies that I don't like. I'm just like, she is my favorite tough girl actress. Whenever they need a woman who I believe could kick the living crap out of me, Michelle Rodriguez is my #1 choice, and I don't think there's any other choice needed. And she's a lot of fun in this movie as well. I like that they have a whole lot of action scenes with her. I feel like Michelle Rodriguez doesn't get a lot of time to, joke around with her character a whole lot all the time. And here they did. Not that she is a humorous character making jokes, but what she does and says is funny. Now, there are some predictable scenes, and one scene that drags on way too long, which is just not great at all with her. But I would say there's more in the writing. I feel like Michelle Rodriguez fits the characters really good, and I feel like she's a good fit for the movie. She and Chris Pine work off of each other really well as the thick-headed, stern one and the, more flexible, loosey-goosey, jokey one. And their personalities work off of each other, and I buy their relationship, their friendship that they have in this film. But it wouldn't be a story about a merry band without the other supporting characters. And, the characters, I like them. I actually really do like them, but I feel like the writing doesn't do as much with them as they could. Like, they come across this druid shape-shifting girl, and she's actually really cool. They actually use the shape-shifting scenes to their advantage many times. There's like a scene where she's spying on the villain of the film, and then she spots her and sends the guards on her, and she has to shape-shift into multiple different animals a lot of different times in order to escape. Some bigger, some smaller, some, it's just, and it's a great chase scene. It's a really creative with that. I will say, the movie does a great job with being creative with it. There is this straight-up rip-off of Portal, like to the point where it's a circular thing that you shoot here, and then you shoot another one there, and then you can walk through here and go over there. It's Portal. Absolutely Portal. But they do good creative stuff with it. And I actually, there's a part in the movie where they're doing like a heist thing with it, and I thought that was so cool. One of the best uses of that sort of gimmick I've ever seen. And the wizard who gets that, he's actually a pretty fun character as well. You can kind of see what his deal is pretty early on, that he's the wizard with self-confidence issues, and he has to overcome them in the course of the film. But I will say his character is a lot fun and not, annoying. His character can still do stuff. He's just not an all-powerful wizard sort of thing, So he still has good fun lines, good snark, and is creative with the way he uses stuff in order to, help the team win the day. So I like that, because, so many times this type of character is like, oh, I don't know what to do, I can't do anything. But I feel like this actor really hit the role in a way that made me appreciate his character and laugh with him instead of just groaning at him. The villain is a little weak, and there's also just some parts that are just not developed at all. There's literally a scene where this witch, she's just in a hallway, and the other guy that she's working with leaves, and all of a sudden you see the shadowy figure in the corner going good, he has served his purpose, it's all coming together. Yes, soon we will rule this entire kingdom, which name I can't remember. It's and I'm like, okay, so she's going to be the build-up, and he's going to be the main bad guy or something. There's going to be a trying effort to raise him back to life. We never see him again. I mean, spoilers, I guess, but he never shows up again in the rest of the film. And I'm just like, why'd you even have him in the film at all if you weren't going to utilize him in the film? I guess maybe it's sequel bait, but if it is, that's really pushing it. I will say this movie feels like an action film from the 80s and 90s in the best ways and the worst ways. Like the action scenes and the banter is so fun and over the top and creative and stuff like that, but the motivations and stuff are so lazy and simplistic, and the villain stuff, like the whole purpose of his Chris Pine's character in this movie is that he wants his daughter back. They decide to rob this guy who, used to work with them and then betrays him. And so they decide to rob him as well, but their main focus is just get the daughter back. But he decides to keep her, and so I'm thinking, okay, maybe because he used to be part of this order, they need a blood of his order, and they're going to sacrifice her to bring back the, Evil Dead guy looking that was in the corner over there. But no, they never say that they need her for any reason. So think about it this way. If it was just like this, hey, give me my daughter back. Yep, absolutely. Here you go. Have a nice day. The villains would have won! Yeah, he would have just taken his daughter and left, and the villains would have been able to do all of her sort of thing in the climax, you know? So it's like, why do you, like, if you're going to have, like, the character hang on to the daughter for some reason, then you have to, you know, give a reason why they're carrying on to her, other than, I've grown quite fond of it, and that's it. Also, the reason, like, the daughter believes the guy who's been taking care of her for 2 years and not her father, I feel like is weak. I think you would at very least consider listening to what your dad has to say. Especially since he wasn't really a dick to her for the rest of her life. You know, I get it. I just feel like, why did you have the daughter show up at all, you know? Like, why didn't you have, them show up to pick up the daughter, and he's like, oh yeah, she'll be here momentarily. Then he turns it over, but they don't actually have a scene where the daughter and the father talk together, you know? He just betrays them outright. I feel like that probably would have worked better. Overall, I feel like the daughter is just a cute face to rescue, but not an actual character or a character that's integral to the plot other than the emotional connection. But we don't really feel that much of an emotional connection. We're told that they have one, but we don't really see it or feel it. So I find it harder to sympathize with the character when I don't actually really feel his motivation for doing it. Like, I understand it, but it's just not a strong feeling, you know, that I don't get a strong feeling from these characters. But I will say something the movie does excel in, is it is a very funny movie. There are lots of laughs in this film. There's a graveyard scene where they're trying to find something that will leave you rolling on the floors in the movie theater. It's really good, very well paced. I love that. There's a scene where they have to go into this underworld with a bridge that's very, very funny. The characters are pretty funny, and I enjoy them quite a bit. Overall, as I say, I feel like this is a movie from the 80s, 90s era that has just been made today. And I think, like, in some ways, why it's gotten such a positive rating is because that kind of feels refreshing. We're too used to every movie being so formulaic and also, like, sorry to say it this way, but woke, because you have to shove in 5 gay characters, 7 different races into the film in order for it all to make sense. And this film doesn't feel like it has any of that pandering. Not that it's against any of those groups, because I'm not saying that they should be, but I'm saying is, like, it doesn't feel like it has to be towards anyone in particular. It's just a movie that is allowed to be a movie. Sorry, that got into a weird tangent. Forget about that. But anyway, my main point is that it feels like it's just a movie that is just a fun little movie. And it is. If you enjoy fantasy epics, and especially if you're into Dungeons & Dragons, you'll probably get a lot more references that just probably went right over my head. But there's still a lot of fun to be had here. But I will say, overall, I don't feel like the movie's anything spectacular. There's good stuff in this and very enjoyable moments overall, but I kind of don't get the hype, so to speak. Honestly, I would say, I mean, I'm late to this review, so it's probably already out of theaters, or at least on its way out. I would say probably you're okay with skipping to this one, wait until it becomes on a streaming service available, and then watching it there if you're really curious. I don't feel like there's any huge demand to see it in theaters. But in any case, so might as well give my rating for this. And since I can't find my laser gun, I'm just going to say that I'm going to give this movie a 5 out of 10. It's an average movie. Honestly, I was kind of a little bit disappointed with this movie, but there were a lot of laughs, and the characters' acting was pretty good, that it did give me enough that I enjoyed it well enough. I don't think it's anything super spectacular, but I enjoyed it. But I'm going to keep my rating at a 5 out of 10. I don't really feel like it's anything to write home about. So, in any case, that is my rating. I'm gonna just talk about a couple things in the spoiler part of the review. Not too much, but just a couple things. So, yeah. The worst scene in this movie is definitely Michelle Rodriguez's death scene, which it's just, that's the part where I was like, this really feels like the movies from the 80s and 90s, because it's like, here's a death scene that we know is not going to end in death. We know it's not. And it's just like, So he's like, she was really her mother. She never knew her mother, but this woman here was really her mother the whole time, so she deserves to live. You know what? I'm sure there's lots of people that deserve to live or anything, but it doesn't make you God and get to decide who lives and who dies. I don't know. But it's just the acting. It was also like, you were the best thing I was like, Michelle Rodriguez, I don't feel like this is your best acting, but I don't feel like this scene is terribly written. And you're just like, you have like a thing in your chest and you're talking like normal. These sort of things are some of the old style of movies that I could do without. Also, the romance that was set up between the druid and the wizard, I was a little disappointed with it. Like, we set up that they went on a date and she did not care for him, and that was kind of where things left off there. But I was hoping that we were going to get some development, you know, maybe scenes where he actually impresses her or saves her, or not that saving leads to romance, but, you know, like when he's actually starting to try, you know, maybe they have a scene where she encourages him and then she inspires him or something like that, where they can be able to work together. But none of that really happens. You know, he does gain confidence and everything, but it's not because of her or with her or anything like that. And just at the end of the movie, he asks her to dance and she says, oh, all right. So I'm like, well, that's like, you didn't do any development of that throughout the course of the movie. You developed their characters on their own, sure, but you didn't develop any romantic chemistry between them, so I thought that was pretty bad. And yeah, the villains sort of thing, I did, there was moments that I liked in the climax. I liked how they had to figure out how to get out of the maze without, you know, being into the playing the game sort of thing. That was pretty good. I liked how they used, you know, the race thing, at least I think they said they did. They used the wrist thing on her to stop her magic, then beat the crap out of her, like Loki got beat the crap out of by Hulk. Yeah, but so that's all really good. But I still think because of the stuff in the films, you know, still getting held back a little bit. Oh, I did like that other character that was introduced. I can't remember what his thing is. The guy that was basically the Drax because he didn't understand sarcasm. But I didn't get why he left. I get that that's like a Dungeons & Dragons thing. You'll have an NPC that joins the party for a little bit, gives you exposition, and leaves, sort of thing. But I'm like, yeah, but technically he's supposed to be a big protector, and this is a big, big problem. And so in the story itself, you don't have any reason why this guy doesn't want to help. In any case, that's all I really have to say. Thanks for watching, everybody. And yeah, join me on my next review. Bye.
Be sure to check out some of these other videos on my channel. And wait for more coming soon.